we'll be building something like this. Okay, let's see. Let me turn off. So this is kind of a demo that exists on flutter.dev. So it just if I don't type it anything, it just says please enter some text, and for validation I'll have to enter something, right, and then I can revalidate. We'll do something like that in Flutter, right? So in mobile apps, it is very much essential and very much um, too much occurring event of an app is forms, right? You may have to enter your name, your email ID, phone number, and you'll need to validate all those things in a single click and show the required information to the user. So we'll just have a look how we can do that easily. I'll just go
Validate
ahead and yeah.
validate it against a database or something?
No, so validate just the data. For example, we could have an email validation, right? So it could check for at the rate and dot. Mobile number validation could check for phone numbers, and then we'll just get the data, and then then print the data in the next screen. Super simple.
Gotcha. All right.
I'll just go ahead and create a new Flutter project. I'll say new application. Then I'll say Flutter validation. Let me say form validation. Here, it's stuck. Let me say a new Flutter form validation application. Say next. This looks correct. Finish. Let it go ahead and create. So again, we have this our template code. I'll just go ahead and remove all the comments. All right, this is till the application builds. I'll just clear the code. So we have a material app. Okay, let me just go ahead and clear this too. Okay. We'll be starting with a stateless widget. I'll say st stateless, and I'll say my, and then here, instead of returning a container here, let us go ahead and define a new file. Let's say it form validation dot, and we'll just write our logic in this file. So let's say I'll go ahead and create a stateless widget, because in this example I don't think we'll need we'll need to call set state method. So I'll say stateless, and I'll say form validation. I misspelled the file name. Okay. I'll have to go ahead and import the material library, and here instead of returning container, I'll just return this class. There you go, and it gives me an error because we have not imported this file here. So in this way, we'll keep our main.dart file clean. I'll just refresh my application, and we can see we have a dark background because we are not returning a material app but just a container. So we'll say in return, return a material app. Here I'll say in home, say return a scaffold. And let me add an app bar which will have a title of form validation, and we'll have a body. In that body, I'll add a list view because we'll have multiple items and we'll like to scroll them, right? This seems okay. So in this list view, I'll add children, and here let me do some spacing. And here, let me add a couple of text fields. First, maybe a first name that we might ask a user. Similarly, it could be the last name. Then it could be the email address. Then let's say phone number. Um, address line one, address line two, then city name, pin code. Yeah, I think that's about it. So this will be the text fields which will be adding, and then at last I'll have a button uh, named save. Okay. Um, so the widget used to take in inputs are called text form fields. I'll be adding a text form field here. Let's say I'll add um, an input decoration. Text, let's say decoration, and say input decoration, and I'll be able to add a label text. This label text will be a hint to non-entered text. So if it is an empty, right? If it we have not entered something, we'll have a hint for the users to know what this field is for. So I'll say label text. Enter your first name, and then just let's see, this looks okay. Let me go ahead and add margin. So what we can do is we can add individual paddings to all the text form fields, or in the list views property we can say padding. I'll say edge insets dot all, and then I'll say, let's say 24, and we have padding from all the sides. Let's make it 12 is better. And again, there are so many customizations here. You can change the style of the label, that meaning the font and color of the hint text. We can also add helper text. This is same as label text, but for example, let's also add a helper text.
So, Prahash, can we go to like the documentation for list view, and can you like show me an example of how to read it?
How
Which
to,
are,
sorry, read it?
yeah, like what are the functions, how to call them? I mean, how to understand the documentation for a particular
Okay.
class.
Let's say I'm googling Flutter list view documentation. This should be it, right? So some of the classes that are very much widely used, like Listview, right? Those will have a video to it. Flutter has its YouTube channel called Flutter, Widget of the Week, and they'll also explain you. They'll explain you what the widget is, right? With a graphic, they'll also have the code, and at last they should have an implementation here. In most of the cases, if it is something like a tab bar or a bottom navigation bar, they'll have a mobile implementation like this, which you can, run and play, add it, and, kind of make it like customized by your own. So let me go ahead and see. So this is kind of a brief overview what list view is, and where you can use it. You can just read this. This is not highly technical. It says this example uses a default constructor for list view, which takes a list of widgets, and the children's are made up of containers. So it just says that this in this list view, what we have done is for each and every cell, we have taken a container, which by the way have different colors, and then we have added a text inside it. So this is the general kind of overview or definition of how a list view could be. We'll say list view and padding like we added just right now. We'll say children, and then we'll take widgets. So this was auto completed for my case, and then for different children I have containers. So this would be the first child, this would be the second child, this would be the third child, right? Now in container we have set the height to 50, and for every color, right here we have different color. We have different color and with different alpha values, and for every container we have different text, right? So I guess this is straightforward enough. Um, so what they have done is they have directly added the widgets inside the children, right? What we can also do is we can, define a list of strings and we can add the strings, right? It is in a variable called entries, and we can also add list of integers named color codes, right? In which we'll add all the values of the colors. Here, what we can do, so list view has two kind of constructors. The first one is normal list view. The second one is list view dot builder. So in normal list view, what happens is we can pass the arguments as a separate widget. And builder, what happens is the list view builds from 0 to whatever the item count that we have given. So for example, here we have entries.length. So whatever values we have entered in entries, that amount of time this list view will get built. This this function will get built that amount of times, and that is item builder, which takes these two things, context and index. So don't worry about this. This is just the kind of argument you have to override. This index is what we will use to see what kind of what index it is when we are looping through the list. So for example, it will go to 0 to 3, 0 to 2, right? This will be 0, 1 and 2. So in the 0th round, the value of index would be 0. So it says that for color, just choose whatever the color is of color codes, that is this list, and 0. So whatever is the 0th item, or the 0, whatever the value is in 0th index of this list, that is 600, that will be entered here. So it is similar to writing this right, 600. In the same way, it says in text, just say entry. Then after entry, what you have to write is whatever is the string in the particular index. That is, for the first, it will be, it will say entry space A, and say entry space B, then it will say entry space C. So is the same for here. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so diving back to this again, here, if you don't understand or kind of want to take it slow, just say. Um, so again, a review. We have added a text form field, and we have added a decoration. We have added decoration because of these two labels that I'll want to show when the user clicks on it or has not entered a value, so he knows whatever to write. So I have first name. Similarly, I could have last name. I'll have email. I'll have phone. Address line to city. And pin code. Okay. Let me port. Okay. So the same kind of structure could be achieved in a um, column, right? Because columns stack widgets on one below each other, but we have not used columns. You know why? Let me just go ahead and try. Let me say column and see what happens. Okay, let me go ahead and add 2 or 3 more fields. Okay. Now, as you can see, this is getting overflowed. What this means is if you're using rows or columns and something goes out of the screen, you'll get this kind of error. It'll say bottom overflowed by this many pixels. It means that your layout is kind of 131 pixels more than what the screen is. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll kind of give the code a scrolling ability. What list view does is it restricts itself to whatever the parent height is. In this case, the parent is this default, right? And it is the screen height. So whatever the screen height is, it'll take up that height, and then it'll give infinite number of height and width for the children. So I'll just go ahead and again make it list view. I maybe should add padding here. Let me say not all, but um, only, let me say bottom, then maybe 8. Okay, this looks better. Maybe I shouldn't have added so many. Okay. Um, we can skip city, but it's okay now. Okay, so now what we'll need to do is we will need to have some sort of validation, right? But before that, let us go ahead and add a button. And here I should say raised button, and I'll give it a child of text and say save, and let me make the color. It should take in style, it should take in text style, it will take color, and let us make it white. Raised button will also take on pressed. Let us keep it empty here. If you leave raised button, just define raised button without on pressed, it will turn gray. So just okay. Is it gray right now? Maybe we'll have to add color. Colors dot.
Won't we have to add a stateful widget to make it like pressable?
The color.
No, the button to do something like clicking.
No. So no, because the button again, it does not change the actual state of the button or the state of anything, right? Whatever, however, the I see how you can get the question, but however, the error messages will show that will be handled by Flutter itself, and we won't be showing anything, right? That is the reason we won't have to define a stateful widget. We won't be calling set state anywhere, so there is no reason to call that. You'll know now. Since we have added all the text fields, we'll also have to take in values of this, right? So for that, there are two methods. I'll use controllers. In mine, what I'll say is text editing controller, and then I'll define text editing controller. Let me name it TEC, and for name, I'll say first name. And this is my text editing controller. Let me also initialize it. New text editing controller. So this kind of controllers are used to manage the text form fields and also take the data of these. So it'll take argument named controller, and I can pass this controller here, right? So now whenever I want the text inside this, I can just call this controller and then take the text. Let me replicate the same for, instead of first name, it should be last name. Here it should be email, phone.
So what is this controller going to do exactly?
So wherever we are using controllers in our program, just know that those controllers will be getting the values from the widget that we are using them on, right? So for example, I'm writing something here. Let me um, this ADDR. Um, okay. For example, let me write something, right? So I need this text. How will I be able to get this text? I can call this controller, and it has method called text, and this will give me the value of this. So let me print it out. Now whenever I click on save, okay, well, will be able to get me the controller of whatever is typed inside that particular form, right?
So
And
is controller a class already written or some code already written, or are we writing?
so the controller, the text editing controller is already a class that is written. If you control click on it, you'll be able to see the whole documentation. It says create a controller on editable text field. So again, this is also a good way of having a look at all the widgets and classes that are declared in inherently inside Flutter. So yeah, this is just a class. We'll just implement, make an object and just add that object here. The logic that is about to come is very simple. um, I can just replicate this and make address to city and wait for okay, two more. City and then okay. Single here it should be last name, that is to email, phone, address one, two, city and pin code. Right. Now, actually, we have gotten the data for each and every, right? We can go ahead and print the values of each and every text if we want to. But the real thing is before, we can go ahead and print those, we'll have to evaluate this and validate this controllers, right? For example, in first name, I should not be able to accept a space and numbers, only, characters, continuous characters. So in that case, um, I'll go ahead and define um, a global key type from state. So what this will do is we'll have to wrap the whole list view inside a widget called form, right? So this kind of widget form will be taking in, like, evaluating each and every text form field that is present below the list view, like below its widget tree, and then it will return us the output, right? But like how will it be able to return to like however we used to add a controller in text form fields, here we'll able to say key and just say form. This should be, yeah. So um okay, we have wrapped all the text views inside a form, right? But we also have to write the logic of each and every text view, of how and what data should it expect, right? So inside text form field, we have an argument called validator, and it will give us a value which will be of the data type string. Now here we'll return some cases. What cases will return is, for example, if it is the first name, we'll want the name to be not empty, right? I'll say if val is null or value is empty, right? Return please enter a value. So in this case, let me complete the if case. So in this case, right, if the value is null or if the value is empty, will say please enter a value. So whatever error message will want to show here will write that. And if let's say else if um let's say value dot contains, if it contains a space, we'll just say um first names cannot have a space, right? Now we'll also have to add the last case in which everything is perfect, right? So if it is not, the value is not empty, the value cannot is does not have a space, we'll just say return null. In which case it should just accept whatever value it has. So again, let me grab this. The logic should be the same for last name. Um, let's say last name here. Um, in email, right? We have two conditions. Um, Firstly, we'll see if the value is null or the value is empty. We'll say return please enter uh, else if so if the user has entered a value, right, it doesn't mean that the value should be exactly would be an email. So in that case we'll say um, so if value dot contains at the rate is false. So if it does not contain at the rate or the value does not contain a dot is equals to false, then we'll just say return please enter a valid email, right? And else we'll just return null. Okay, so the same drill goes for phone number. Phone number instead of ins- we'll say if it is empty, we'll say phone. Please enter a phone number. If uh, the other thing that we have to validate is the number, right? The phone number could be between 9 to 12 digits. If they are greater or lesser, they'll not be a actual phone number. So I'll say if um, value dot length is less than 9 um, or value dot length is greater than 12, we'll say please enter a valid phone number. And the other thing that we may or may not have to handle is extensions, right? But in most of the cases where we are implementing the phone number, what we do is we tend to generally give the drop down for extensions. So I won't have to cover it here. So letting it go. Let's just say the address lines, city and the pin codes are optional. So if they are optional, what I'll do is I just won't add the validator. I won't add this, right? So it won't check for the validity of all this for text editing forms. Now on press, right? Reload the app. Now when I press on save, I should be able to print all the values only when these are validated. If they are not, they should print errors. So for that, now we'll use the form key, global key that we did, right? So I'll say if form dot, I'll call current state here. So whatever the current state of the form is, and I'll say validate. This function validate returns a boolean. So if it is, if it is validated, it'll, it will come here, it'll return true, and so we can print validated. Or let us okay, this should be a string. Let us print an error here. It is not validated, right? Now let us just for first give it empty and click on save. You can see whatever the option, the required fields were, it is turned to red. It says enter a value, enter an email, and enter a phone number, right? Whatever logic we had written there, I'll just say this and save. So I'll see that the for the first text field, it says it is validated, and here, like if at least one of the text form inside the widget form is not validated, we'll say not validated, right? But let me go ahead and write a space here. It says, first names cannot have a space, so logic holds a fine here. I'll say name one, last name. I'll say let us check the validity for email. Let me add anything here. We'll say enter a valid email at the rate somedomain.com. It should work now. Same for phone numbers. It will work. Now, one thing I didn't do here is check for the numbers. So let us go ahead and add those. In phone numbers, I'll also have to check if this number is uh, if the entered value is a number or not. So in that case, I'll say that I have an object called integer, and it has a method called try parse, which takes a string, which will take our input. It will return null if the entered number is not an actual number but has alphanumeric characters or alphabetic characters. So if it is null, that meaning if it has alphanumeric characters, we'll say please enter a number. Let's go ahead and try. It should say please enter a phone number. It should say okay. So since let me make this sorry, wow, 9 digits. How many digits are this? Eight. One more. Yeah. Now it says please enter a number. Now let us go ahead and add everything. Now please enter a phone number. Okay. Let's make it 10. Okay. Email. Alright. Now it takes the values, and if we couldn't see in the debugger, it says validated. Alright. Now what I want to do is I want to take all these values and print it on a different screen. So for that, I'll say let's create a new um, file in which I'll say form underscore display. Yeah, I forgot to add dot. What I'll do in this page is nothing huge. I'll just print all the values in a list that are gotten by all the form fields here. So here we'll do navigation between two screens. So let me go ahead and define a stateless widget. I'll say for display, and instead of container, I'll return a scaffold. Inside a scaffold, we have the same drill app bar with the title of next. Should say for display, and it should have a body. Of let's say list view. And yeah, so let us keep it till here. Meanwhile, uh, so we have to take all the values from here, right? Then send it here. So what we'll do is, first of all, I'll create a map, or I'll just create a list. We'll say it lst values is equals to new list, and here in this list I'll go ahead and add all the values. So I'll say dot add. um, Firstly I'll add first name, I'll add last name, then I'll add email, phone number, um, address 1, address 2, city, and code. Did I miss something? No, I don't think so. So why have I defined list here is, since we have to transfer all these values from here to here. I don't want to make so many arguments. So instead of making a huge long constructor, I'll just make one constructor that are taking one a value of one list. So that will be easy. There are certain methods we'll call push to push a screen on the over whatever screen we are working on. You can call pop to remove that screen. You can call push replacement, which will dismiss the current screen. That is, pop the current screen and then push another screen. For example, in an app wherever you log in, right, or sign up. In that case, once you click login or sign up, that screen should not appear even if you press back, right, because you are already logged in. So in that case, you can use push replacement, which will again, replace the current screen with the new one. But we don't want it to replace, so I'll just say push should take route, material page route, and we'll create a material page route. But material page route is nothing but a way of opening screens. A way of opening screens means the animations that the different screens get. You can use Cupertino page route if you want to add screens the iOS style, that is pushing from right to left. In Android it will give a different effect. Okay, let's see. Dot phone. Save. Uh, okay. So the error should be, there should be an error. Save. Not validated. Okay. Enter your first name. Yes, that is some issue here. Let me put a debugger. Click on save. Let's see what happens. It adds this, adds this, adds this, adds address, and here there's some problem. Okay. Okay, I think the answer is point to one thing is we cannot. So whatever the material app we are having is not able to provide a context that is not used. Whatever it means, what we can do is inside main, instead of directly calling. All right. So what we did here is we directly asked for a material app. Instead of this, let me wrap this inside a material app. Material, then let's say child, and we'll landscape. just have a form here. Let me remove material and scaffold here from here. We'll just return a form, and in main we'll have a material and a scaffold. With an app bar and a body. This should be it, I guess. I'll just give you an overview from the start because I know this can be confusing. Okay, we have this. Okay, let me. So what I did was I just passed this form validation from here, right? This is a bad way to do. If you are defining a stateless widget and you are literally passing whatever widget inside a stateless widget directly into run app, right? This would be an issue. Remember at the starting we talked that the run app function wants or expects a material app. If it does not get a widget with its top head being a material app, it does crazy things. So this is one of the issues that we were having because of that. So doesn't matter if we defined our material app here, but whatever the the topmost stateless or stateful widget was, that did not have a material app. So now what I did was I just took material app from here, just shifted it here, added a scaffold, app bar, and inside the body, I just added this file, right? Inside a body, I just add a stateless widget which returned a form. Now from here, our thing is the same, right? We have multiple text editing controllers which are added into different text form fields as controllers, and we are able to get the values by calling dot text. Alright, instead of adding the whole controllers, let me just say text. We don't want to pass the entire controls to the next screen. Let me just say text, right? And let me make this list of the type string. Okay, now we'll just go ahead and add our validation back. Um, so if you just glance at that time I was clicking save, the second screen appeared. But we don't just want second screen to appear, right? We also want to add this value to this screen. So for that, we will simply use constructor. How they are defined is the whatever the class's name is, and then whatever value we are adding in. What value we are passing would be a list. So I'll say list value and say for this new. I should not initialize it because I'll be getting this value anyways. This is this dot lst form. So now this widget expects a list view. So here we should be getting an error. I'll just add this list view here. Yeah. All right. Here before returning scaffold, let me just go ahead and print my list. List form. All right. So let me write my name. So to address. I'll hit save. Let me go ahead and see. We see all the details reflected here. Now, what we have to do is we have to print them in a list, right? What I can do is I can say list view, and then you can say children, and then I write text, and I'll say list form, and then whatever the value of the list is. I can do that for each and every values that we have, right? So it will get printed like this one by one. But if the list is very long, I might have to do this multiple times. So instead of this, what we'll do is whatever we saw on the documentation, that was list dot generate where listview dot builder, sorry. So Listview Builder is what we will use, and you know how it works. So Listview and Listview Builder both return the same objects or the same widgets. Just the implementation is different. I'll remove this. I'll say list builder, and then it straight away says it takes item builder, right? Item builder is which has two arguments. First is build context. You can name it context, and then we have integer index, right? So this will get returned in this function, whatever we are using. But we'll be using that later. First, we'll have to define that how many times does it generate this, or how many times should it call this particular object, right? So however many times, however the length of this list is, right? So I'll say item count, and then I'll say list form dot length, simple. Now in this case, it will just be calling the this function. What we have to do is we have to return a widget, right? However many times it is called. So there is something called list tile. List tile. Why is it tile? It takes a title and it takes a subtitle. In title, we can pass a text of whatever the field was. So I can say LST form, and then we'll in the square brackets we'll pass the index. So I'll just say index, right? So what this will do is this will print out whatever value is stored in that particular index of the list form. It won't print out, it will give that value to the title. In the subtitle, there is no use of subtitle. Let's say the subtitle, instead of subtitle, I'll say there is something called leading. And in leading, I'll add a circular avatar in which I'll add a child, say text, and then inside text, I'll say index.